Hello and welcome to episode 54 of Around the Lens, your live weekly visual journalism roundtable podcast coming at you every single Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. With me, as always, is co-host Zach D. Roberts. Zach.
And if you wanted to learn more about us, head on over to aroundthelens.com. Follow us on Facebook at AtL Podcast and on Instagram at Around the Lens.
Also, Twitter Around the Lens.
Sorry.
You do the tweeting as well. It's okay. Good try, Zach. We got a great show for you tonight. A lot of great panelists on this evening. We got 3 panelists on. So if you were expecting only 2, a little bonus for you, a little pre-Christmas gift for you. So our panelists on tonight are Bill Putnam, Doug Strickland, and Nick Cote. Guys, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hey, everybody. I'm Bill Putnam. I'm a photojournalist and a full-time student at American University here in Washington, D.C.
Hey, guys.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Bill, what are you studying at American University?
I'm studying broadcast journalism with a minor in creative writing.
Okay. So your background is primarily photojournalism, and now you're learning broadcast journalism?
Yes, sir.
Cool. How's the transition been?
It's not been bad. I like being around, it's humbling being around 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Doug?
Hey, guys. I'm Doug Strickland. I'm a staff photographer at the Chattanooga Times Free Press in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Welcome back, Doug. Glad to have you back. How have things been going since the last time we had you on?
Well, I know we kind of started talking last time I was here about the July 16 shootings, and Chattanooga since then has made national news again. We had a bus crash that killed 6 elementary school kids not too long ago. And so, yeah, it seems like every time I come to talk to you guys, I've got some new tragedy that we've been going through.
Yeah, it seems like, we scheduled your appearance before the tragedy happened.
We did, yeah.
So my thinking is that every time we schedule you on the show, something horrible will happen in Chattanooga before that show.
I really hope that doesn't keep happening because I like coming to talk to you guys. So,
you're like, listen, guys, I can't be on the show anymore. Chattanooga has been through too much.
Let's hope that that's not the case.
For any listeners who aren't photojournalists, this is like the normal level of like conversation between photojournalists, because the only time we ever get to actually meet usually are during either horrible events, is when we're standing around waiting for something to happen or some press conference or whatever, or basically things about to happen, and we're usually talking about that. So that's this. So.
We're a little bit morbid.
Yeah.
Doug, did you shoot or did you document any of that activity or that event?
Yeah, I came in the day after it happened, and they were still processing the scene at that time, and of course, at that point, all the national media was here, and we were really the center of attention. And I was there when they finally took the bus out of the crash scene. Nobody had been able to get anywhere near the crash scene. The police were probably for the best, keeping us all pretty far away from it. But the moment where I saw the bus coming out, that it really kind of hit me just how bad everything was. Like you could tell it had been wrapped around a telephone pole and a tree, and that really kind of hit home just the gravity of the situation. And the days following that were pretty tough. It was it's never good to cover anything like that. And the more you do it, I don't want to say you get used to it, but it never gets any easier.
Yeah. And have they come to a conclusion on that, or is it still under trial?
No, he has been charged. I think we've been hearing that the police are fairly confident that he was driving too fast. There have been a lot of reports that we've been able to dig up about complaints that have been made to the school board and to the parent company that runs the school bus system for our county about him sort of in the weeks leading up to the crash, the complaints that he was reckless or that he was driving too fast from parents and from kids on the bus. But I think the NTSB was called in to investigate. Their investigation isn't going to be released for probably another, I think they said 9-10 months, something like that. So we're at this point, it's kind of just a wait and see with where things go from here. And that's kind of where we stand right now.
Okay. Well, regardless, glad to have you on. And Nick.
Hi. So I'm Nick Cote, and I'm a freelance photojournalist in Boulder, Colorado.
How's that going? How's Boulder?
It's good. It's been snowy and cold here, but that's a good thing if you like winter sports. So good to have seasons again too. I spent 5 years in Phoenix, Arizona, working for a paper there. So good to be back in the winter for me.
So you're from that area?
I'm from Wyoming originally.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So how's it like to have legal weed?
There's kind of a running joke that Coloradans want other states to legalize weed so they stop coming here and making ridiculous 911 calls when they eat too many brownies or something like that.
Oh, man.
And you don't have every single national reporter coming there to do some stupid story about, weed.
Yeah. I mean,
well, I think they have more options now.
Yeah, I mean, there are. I do get assignments that are related to that, so I'm not really complaining.
Not gonna complain, yeah. That's true.
Well, now that California has legalized weed, I'm sure that'll take some of the, the pressure off of Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, Colorado is definitely kind of the guinea pig in this experiment, and so I think, a lot of other states at least have something to look at now. They're where Colorado has failed and succeeded in legalizing it. So you're welcome, rest of the country.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Way to lead the way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get on with the show. We got a lot of stuff to talk to you all about tonight. A lot of great topics. If you want to follow with us, just head on to aroundthelens.com. You can see all the show notes and follow us as we talk about what we're going to talk about. So our first story this evening is all about a copyright victory for visual journalists. Now, this came out of, the big USA, the big government here, Washington, D.C. The House Judiciary Committee on copyright law came out with a proposal that essentially turns the sort of copyright process for essentially trying to fight for your work into a small claims system. So it's intended essentially to make the whole process of claiming a copyright and getting reimbursed for your copyright something that is a lot smoother, a lot easier, and less sort of work for the copyright holder. Because primarily now, if somebody infringes on your copyright, it can be a pretty expensive and daunting task to try to essentially litigate that, especially if they're not going to be, play fair, or if they're not going to, obviously pay you for their copyright infringement. So I think this small claims process is designed to essentially give the visual journalists, give the creators more control and more power. What do you guys think of this? These new legislation, do you think it's going to help out professional photographers and other visual artists?
I think absolutely. That was, the main, obstacle for any photographer trying to, get any kind of, reimbursement on, copyright infringements, was just having to go to, hire a lawyer. And, that's pretty much impossible for a lot of working photographers. And I think especially as the industry kind of transitions into using more freelance work, it's good for kind of the small guys to have some recourse for when, when they need it.
Yeah, I'm actually going through this right now with an image that was taken from the internet and used in an advertisement. And I'm registered. I'm represented by Zuma, and I alerted them that this was happening, and they have since their legal beagles or legal eagles on the infringer. If I didn't have that, I don't know. Obviously now there's recourse, but I don't. There's.
There was still recourse before, but it was just a much more laborious process.
Right, and now it sounds like it's a lot easier. But anyway, I'm actually going through this right now. That's what I wanted to chime in.
Can you talk a little bit about that specific, like what happened there, or like?
Yeah, well, I was in 2010. I was on an embed working for a weekly paper out of Fort Worth, Texas, and I shot a bunch of stuff on film because I didn't have media deadlines, so I shot a bunch of stuff on Kodachrome, and I got back, I developed it, and I scanned it, and as far as I know, I didn't put it anywhere. I've looked for it, and it's not anywhere that I know about. So I'm friends on Instagram with a bunch of the guys from that unit, and lo and behold, I woke up one morning, I was kind of perusing my Instagram feed, and I saw my image in the back of an advertisement. And I didn't get a hold of the guy. I didn't reach out to the guy that I know, and I said, wait a minute. So I did some digging around, and I found out that it was just some T-shirt company that had taken it, that had snagged it, their words, not mine, off the internet. And I was like, okay. At first I was going to be like, all right, just take it down. But then he used the word snag. I said, no, this is outright theft. So I emailed Zuma and I said, hey, what do you think here? And they said, send us what you got, and we will move forward with it. And that was as of, well, today's Monday. I'm in the middle of a semester right now, so I'm kind of fried. But
so Around the Lens is a live weekly show we do every Monday.
Okay, so it was a week ago. And they that was it. As far as I know, they've contacted legal, and legal is now in some kind of proceeding to get me my money, because I apparently used the same picture in a couple of different places on the website as advertisement.
Wow. Well, I hope that you're able to get compensated for that. That seems like a definite infringement case there.
It might only be $20, but whatever. It's still
the principle of the matter,
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so I think the real advantage with this new system is going to be that if that happens to you and you aren't represented by somebody like Zuma, you're still going to have the resources to pursue that. Right now, if you were just a little guy who wasn't represented by Zuma, you would have to hire an attorney and go through federal court, not state court. Any copyright claims have to be handled through federal court.
Right. And
that's something that most of us, it's incredibly time consuming. And if you're talking about an infringement that would get you, $800 in damages, is the time it's going to take to do that worth $800 in damages?
Yeah.
And not having to go through that, and hiring a lawyer and the expenses that are related to that. So, the not having to go through that process, having a small claims way to do that is really going to be invaluable.
No, if I could just chime back in, I think that's exactly right. Like up until this legislation passed, I didn't even know. I mean, I wouldn't even gone forward with it because it would have been so difficult and consuming on everyone's part, especially mine, to do anything about it. But because I have backup, I can do it. But if I didn't have backup, this would make my life a lot easier. And I think it's a lot easier.
And I think a lot of people take advantage of photographers because they know that probably the worst that's going to happen if I steal this photo is they're going to send me a takedown notice, and that's going to be the end of it.
Yeah,
right.
And now, when that's no longer the case, I think we are going to see a change in the way that companies using images without permission operate. At least I would hope we would.
Yeah. How about Nick? Nick, have you ever had this experience?
Luckily, I haven't actually. So, at least not as a freelancer. When I worked at a newspaper, it was a little bit more common for like local bloggers and stuff to kind of take images and stories, without asking. But I luckily haven't had to pursue this on my own.
What did your newspaper do when bloggers did that?
I don't know if they really even did anything. I think they would usually just send them an email or something, but they didn't. I don't think they really did much about it.
Probably just not cool, dude. Not cool.
Yeah, and it's like, I am glad. I think everyone kind of assumes the images are free right now, just because they're so ubiquitous and
images, music, movies, it's all free.
On the internet.
I got paid for stuff.
Yeah, so I think this is actually putting some teeth into the existing copyright law, which I think is fantastic for any creative artists, musicians, photographers, whatnot.
And long overdue.
Yeah.
And
I'm hey man, I was born between 1990 and 2000. Why are you infringing my entitlement to have everything for free?
Yeah,
safe space.
As an undergrad, that's my daily life every day at school. Yeah. And I'm in my early 40s, and it's aggravating and humbling to be around that attitude.
Do you find a lot of the people or the kids have that entitlement sort of, the young adults have that sort of entitlement attitude? You're right there deep in millennials. You're throwing.
I am. I'm like neck deep in millennials, and I'm 6'5", so that tells you how neck deep I am. I do see it from not as pervasive as people make it out to be, but it is there. So
yeah,
it's. I worked for almost 20 years before I went back to university. So for me, I like not having my work stolen.
Yeah.
Really?
And it's hard to, yeah, I know, right? It's a funny thing about that. And it's hard to kind of get that across to the 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds that I'm in class with every day. It's especially.
What are you telling me mom and dad isn't going to support me after I graduate from college?
Right. Exactly.
Zach, you've had to deal with some people taking your stuff, haven't you?
I've got a ton, and my thing is usually not millennials. It's 40. It's people in their 50s and 60s that own websites. That think they can just go ahead and take photos, and people my own age. The thing is that the thing that worries me is that I just graduated. I finally graduated my undergrad. I'm 35. I graduated my undergrad in political science.
High five,
man. 2 years ago. So I was in the same shoes as you were, and that's twice I was a whatever continuing ed type student, because I went back to school as well when I was 25. So then I felt old. And at the same school twice too, so literally got to see teachers age. But what I find is that my biggest problem in whether it be journalism or whether it be in any class that I've ever taken, there's not ever a single mention about photos being not even just a copyright issue. And I think that that's something that we have to fight. Obviously, that's a big fight, getting paid and everything like that for copyright. But why is it plagiarism when one steals 2 lines of a text and doesn't credit it, but somebody puts the photo in their paper, in their newspaper, on their website, on their whatever? To me, that's a journalistic level. I mean, Stephen Glass got kicked out of journalism.
And now he's a lawyer.
Careers ended. Yeah, of course. People's careers ended because they stole a couple lines from an interview and didn't credit or whatever. But I've never heard of one single person that was a journalist that lost their job because they stole a photo. Maybe a photographer did, but not a print journalist.
Right. Well, I just had, I took a TV broadcast course this semester. Again, we're going to go back to the millennials. It's always about the millennials these days, apparently. And I don't know. Are you guys millennials?
I guess so. Millennials pretty broad.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, so I'm not gonna.
I think we're all on 30.
Everyone
I'm on the edge, 35. Yeah.
Okay, so I took a TV course this semester, and the course is run concurrently with a backpack journalism class. Right. Well, for one of in the TV course, all our jobs rotated. So one week I was a producer, 1 week I was a reporter. Yada yada yada. Well, for 1 week, I had to go shoot something on the National Mall, and I shot this thing. And it turns out that one of my classmates in the backpack course had to go shoot the same thing, and because she was lacking, B-roll, she went to YouTube and lifted my footage. Yeah.
Wow. Did she know she was lifting your footage, or just?
Yeah. Here's the best part: she had to apologize to me in person.
See, if she had been writing a paper and she did that, she would have been kicked out of school for plagiarism, right?
Yeah. Well, it turns out that is on the table.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I didn't accept the apology. I told the person who. I told the person at the university who handles that kind of thing, I said, I didn't accept the apology. I come from a working background. She stole my work. And I'm like, well, how did she find out? How did this professor find out that she looked at my footage? Well, she told her or told him. Well, how did he find out? Well, he looked at the footage and said there was a vast difference in technical competence.
Yeah.
Which could be, that's awkward.
Wow. Yeah, like, all right, cool. So there is that expulsion for this one student that, as far as I know, is on the table.
Wow.
See, that seems warranted to me. That is to me that is no different than if she was writing a paper and she went online and plagiarized somebody else's work. It's the exact same thing.
Here's the question though: are you? Because I never got once. I've only taken half of one journalism class in my entire life. But during that, well, it would be nice. You know, I've never been able to get an internship because I never did. I've never heard once from any professor, any teacher, any other student that I've talked to where they really hammer down the idea that, or even discuss it, at least in the liberal arts area, where they talk about copyright issues. They talk about plagiarism all the time. If you plagiarize thing, it's a one strike and you're out thing. But like, again, photos. And I feel like, not that, you know, I feel like if somebody's in a broadcast journalism course and they're more than it's their first class and they've never done anything else, also just kind of basic, that's not something you should do, like basic humanity. Like you shouldn't just take something like and accept
ethics, morals.
You know, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
But do you feel like they're actually teaching anything that way, like pushing it?
Well, I'm kind of in a weird environment where I went to AU and I'm in AU now, and one more semester, thank God, one more, and I'm done with no more school. So I got waived through a bunch of courses, and one of the courses they waived me through was ethics, and that is a lower level at AU. I think it's a 200 series course. So before you can pick your track of journalism, so if I stuck with print or had done what I'd done and gone on to broadcast work, you have to take journalism ethics. So it is, you know, what they teach there, I don't know. I can't say for certain.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. You said like this is on the table, whereas if it had been plagiarism, it would have been, you know, black and white. You know, the fact that they'll probably have to debate this. I wonder though if perhaps she'll make the argument that it's fair use and that, you know, it's for educational purposes, an educational environment, yada yada yada. I wonder if there's any argument.
You still need to credit though.
Well, and
credit's the issue.
Apart from that, she was. It sounds to me like she's presenting this as her own work, which is where the issue of plagiarism comes in here. If you know, she can argue fair use and all that all she wants, but if she's presenting this as her own work, as something that she shot because she didn't shoot enough B-roll and needed some extra B-roll, that makes it fairly. I mean, even arguing fair use, I think it's pretty clear cut. But
the person I spoke to at the university who's handling this, you know, I said, listen, if she'd come to me and said, can I use your footage? I'll give you credit. I'd have been like, okay, cool. This would not be, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. But the fact is she didn't, and she's going to face some pretty dire consequences because she's supposed to graduate with me in May.
So she's a senior. Holy crap.
This is a 400 series class, man. So
yeah, she should have known better.
Her last name starts with P, but she would have been like 15 people ahead of me in the seating chart. Yeah. So, but now there's a chance that she may not be graduating.
You just I don't ever understand that. I run a blog, an Alaskan political blog, and I ask for. Luckily, obviously, I have a lot of photojournalist friends, so I can usually just say, "Hey, do you mind if I borrow a photo, or can I give you $20 or something?" And most of my friends are like, "Whatever, you know, like don't bother." Yeah, you'll get your beer later, or vice versa. I'll, you know, for something I'm working on, I'll let you, you know, you can use something, but the few times that I'm trying to, you know, like, oh God, I don't somehow in my years of photos, I just don't have an illustration. You just ask. I have so rarely. I've probably half the time I just don't get a response, and the other half of the time I get, hey, yeah, no problem, just credit me. And then I go, how do you want me to credit you? Do you have a PayPal? You know, I mean, like, especially if it's a freelancer, I go, please let me have some way that someone could contribute to you.
Right.
Especially even if I'm just reposting stuff. And I don't understand. I mean, I get that, you know, a lot of the clickbait factories and stuff like that are just like turn article over. But like, I never understand on how so many of these sites think that they can just grab photos and do whatever. I mean, like, there's no chance in hell that places like Occupy Democrats and, you know, a lot of these, like the places you see on Facebook all the time, like the top shared, that are like fake news. I'm not worried about them being fake news. It's the fact that they just steal news, repost it as their own, and don't credit the original people in any way, shape, and form. And the original people that paid for that journalism, whether it be local reporters, whatever, never get any of the credit and never get any of the clicks and never get any of the money, while these sites are actually making a considerable
money hand over fist.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, until now, there are pretty much no consequences for doing that. I mean, there's nothing stopping them. You know, the photographer or the creator could send a DMC a takedown notice, but the vast majority of them didn't have any, kind of resources beyond that. So
right, and even then, the damage is done, and they've already made the money off of whatever they did. So the advertising.
Yeah, or they just would rather beg for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Yeah,
right. Well, I find this challenge, sometimes when I'm running around the lens, because I want to focus and, highlight the work that's been done by the panelists on this show. But of course, if they work for a paper, then I have to work through that paper to get their work because they're not a freelancer, so to speak. Hey, Doug,
yeah, we ran into that recently.
Did you ever get any response back from anybody who you work with?
I think I forgot to get back to you, and I apologize for that.
Well, now you can get back to me live on the show.
I can. Yes, you are welcome to use
the story here is
you
that
wanted to use.
I don't know what you did or why I wanted. I think you were doing something. Anyways,
it was related to the wildfires, I think.
Yeah. So I wanted to highlight you out there in the wildfires, kicking butt, taking names, photographing pictures, but I never got a response back. So what's going on with that, Doug?
Yeah, they said, don't worry about it. It's fine. I think our paper is not very zealous about protecting its copyright anyway, but because I'm very conscious of that, doing what I do as a photographer, I try to be careful about it. The managing editor and some of the other staffers, they're not as worried about it, and I don't think unless it's just a really egregious violation, I don't think we chase after copyright violators very often. But I still try to be very conscious of the fact that the work I'm producing doesn't technically belong to me. It belongs to the newspaper. But the answer is yes. You're the wildfire photo that you wanted to feature
like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, like 3 weeks ago.
Well, I'll keep that in mind for any future posts because, of course, as you are a full-time working photojournalist for a newspaper, you obviously are the forefront of a lot of stuff going on, especially in Chattanooga. So I'll keep that in mind. And again, I'll keep anything I use limited to a very small amount. I think I thought about, can I make, maybe if I could just resize pictures down really low, like thumbnail size, anybody's going to have a hard time about that. But, again, I don't want to take the risk or do anything without permission.
Kind of like Zach said, it never hurts to ask, no matter what. Asking is always a great first step.
And I always make the attempt. I always try to ask before I do anything. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to our next subject tonight. We've got, again, like I said, a lot of stuff to talk about. Our next topic is slow photojournalism. Now, if you've been following the show for a long time, or even if this is your first time, we actually talked about this subject way back in episode 6. But since we've got a new crew and, again, it's a topic that kind of persists throughout our career field, I figure it might as well be ripe for readdressing it. So what we're talking about, of course, is long-term assignments where you're going out, you're making connections with a family or a group or a people or a subject matter, and you're documenting that subject matter over the course of days, weeks, months, potentially years. How often do you all take part in these type of sort of slow photojournalism, slow visual journalism activities, and sort of what has been your experience and how does it counter sort of the more quick one and done type assignments?
I've actually done a lot of this at the paper here, which is it's part of the reason I love working for this newspaper. They've been very good. You know, when you work as a staffer in a newspaper, when you're working on something long term, it's kind of just expected that you work on it on your own time. You know, you come in, you do the daily assignments, and then if you've got a project you're working on, that's either not on company time or, you know, fit it in where you can in between everything else. But they've, especially over the last couple of years, they've really kind of encouraged this sort of long-term, almost documentary style storytelling work. And so I've been here for almost 4 years, and I think I've worked on maybe a half dozen of these stories in that time.
Nice.
And it's the kind of work that I got into photojournalism to do. So it's really great that it's something that's being encouraged. And it's different from daily stuff because you get to spend so much more time with the subjects. If you're working on something where you're following a single subject or a set of subjects, and it allows for just a great depth of intimacy and storytelling in your photos that you can't get when you're doing a one and done pop in. Hey, my name's Doug. I'm going to spend an hour with you. Try to act natural while I take your picture doing this, whatever this thing you're doing that our story is about. You know, you never really get past the uncomfortableness of having a photographer there with a daily assignment. But with this kind of stuff where you can build trust and you really have a chance to become an actual fly on the wall where your presence is almost forgotten. It's a completely different sort of animal, and I'm lucky that I get to work on, because I think what you linked talks about how, you know, most of the photographers who work on this kind of work, they either have to subsist on grants that sort of help them pay the bills while they're working on something for 6 months, 8 months, a year. You know, I'm lucky enough that as a staffer, I can work on this kind of stuff and still get the paycheck while doing the other assignments too. Not everybody has that luxury.
Yeah, I don't think you know, like these long-term stories ever really went away, but it's definitely become a lot harder to pursue them, like logistically, for especially newspaper photographers. You know, having smaller staffs and, you know, maybe not even having editors, or, you know, the paper may not be focused on those types of stories anymore quite as much. So like, you know, having to shoot like 5 assignments and still try to find time to work on a, you know, project it seems to be getting a lot harder for newspaper photographers. And, you know, as a freelancer, it's, you know, a lot of it too is like, you know, you have to fund a lot of it yourself. And I mean, there are grants, but I mean, those are hard. You'll apply for a lot more than you'll ever get, and it takes a lot of time. But I mean, there are resources out there, and, you know, looking outside of photojournalism too is a good way to find grants, like finding like certain causes that, you know, may have some, you know, other source of funding that, you know, isn't related to, you know, like a Magnum grant or a photo a day grant or something like that. Like looking outside the industry is a good way to start. But I mean, I think, you know, the long-term photo stories are kind of what sets photojournalism apart from other types of storytelling. And I think it's, you know, important to keep, you know, trying to get photographers to understand how to tell the stories and to give them the resources to do that. So, I mean, if it, you know, like, it's good to hear, like, you know, Doug, at your paper that, you know, they, you know, support you at least in doing the projects. And, you know, a lot of the long-term stories that like longer term stories that I've done have started with like a one-off assignment.
Oh yeah.
You know, you go somewhere and you realize that there's a lot more there. And, you know, that then it's about, you know, having an editor who's willing to sit on it for a couple of months.
Are you built any experiences?
So what I did recently was about a man who was he was receiving immunotherapy treatment for cancer. It was at a hospital in Denver, and that was I spent about 5 months on that, and that was for the New York Times, and that was a good. They pretty much were just waiting for the story to unfold before they published it. Like, they didn't feel like there was a need to rush it out the door, which I felt helped a lot. And kind of building, just having him be comfortable with me there, sitting, take pictures of him in the most miserable point of his life. And it's something you can't do in like a daily assignment. So
would you say the long-term experiences or the long-term stories you guys do, they're more emotional than you get more emotionally invested in your subjects than obviously, average stuff?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, when you spend that much time with anybody, it kind of goes beyond just the, like work. Like, you don't necessarily think of it as work necessarily.
Right.
Once you could become too invested in it.
Yeah, it can make it difficult to maintain that journalistic objectivity that you need to maintain, because you really get to know them so well. They're not just somebody that you're having a passing encounter with anymore.
Right.
Have you ever had an experience with like a long-term subject where you started off sort of interested and engaged, and then over time you either lost interest or were like turned off by the subject so much so that you didn't want to involve yourself anymore with that?
I've had subjects who have kind of gotten sick of having a photographer follow them around. I mean, some people just don't necessarily understand don't necessarily understand what a long-term photo essay is, and just, maybe at a point in their life where they aren't comfortable having, all of their, kind of dirty laundry aired.
Right.
Yeah, it's that actually, that's probably more common than me getting tired of something like that. And it's something you kind of have to make it clear from the beginning, what it is you're going to do, that you aren't just going to be there occasionally, that you really are going to be there a lot, like more, whatever they think it's going to be like, it's going to be more than that. And even sometimes when you do that, they don't really understand that when you say you're going to be there every day and you're going to spend at least a few hours with them every day, you really mean it.
Yeah.
And what that could potentially be like. And it's hard if you don't have someone who gets that and is really on board with that from the beginning, then it is really hard to do something like this. If they're not as committed to it as you are, then that makes things pretty challenging. Especially if they're having like if they're at a challenging point in their life, which is usually the reason why we'd be interested in doing the story. Exactly. It just might be too much for them to have a stranger coming to their house for dinner every day.
Like, hey, editor, I got this great idea for a photo story. Everything's going great in this guy's life. Nothing is wrong. Yeah. I'm going to spend 6 months on it. How about you, Bill? You've been doing photo and video. Do you have any thoughts on sort of the experiences of either side, and maybe what the differences are between, obviously shooting a long form photo story versus a long form video story?
Well, I mean, my last opportunity really to do a long form anything was my last trip to Afghanistan, when I worked for NATO as a photographer. And I was in Helmand, and I was there for almost a year and a half. It was about 16 months. And I was hanging out with the Afghan army guys virtually every day. And by the time I left, we all had, we had developed a bond, and I had become that fly on the wall, which is difficult for a man of my size.
It's a big fly.
A big fly, yeah. It's a big, yeah. But I think the beard helped. So,
You look like Special Forces.
that's not the first time I've heard that this week, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Just alarming and, yeah, alarming. But I was able to kind of like get into the weeds with them, and with a couple of exceptions, I was able to document their life, trying to get the Afghan army spun up to a point of self-sustainment. I did some video with it, but it was mostly stills. It might be like a 60-40, 70-30 split for stills versus video. And by the time it was over, I was ready to go home. I was a burnout. So I had an end date that I set up, so there was a hard date to end the project, which was me getting on the plane to go home in June of 2013. So, and they knew that, but that still kind of let me get in with the access that I needed to get in to kind of photograph their daily life, which is great. I didn't know I could become a connoisseur of green Afghan chai.
With regard to these long form topics, are there anything that you have to take into consideration that's different from short form, such as preparation before you shoot, in terms of planning how you're going to cover it, or perhaps the gear that you use?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, not necessarily like I don't like you wouldn't necessarily use different gear or anything, but preparation, yeah. I mean, you kind of need to be prepared for a whole lot of nothing to go on. You have to, basically put yourself there and be ready for moments to happen, but it may not happen. You may go shoot for a day and come away with nothing that you could use. So, I mean, I think you kind of just need to be prepared to be patient with it, as opposed to just, if you go to an assignment, if you spend a couple of hours in an assignment for a daily story and you come back with nothing, saying that, oh, the right moment just didn't happen. That wouldn't be, acceptable to tell an editor. But, with like a long-term story, you may not get anything in a day of shooting.
Yeah, a lot of our job is already hurry up and wait, but the longer term stuff is really hurry up and wait. So if you're not good at if you're not a patient person, it isn't really easy to sit there and not have anything happen. But that's, like Nick said, that's the way a lot of it's going to be.
Yeah.
So one's like hurry up and wait, and the other one's like hurry up and wait.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you had to deal with Afghan time.
Oh my God.
And that can be, oh yeah, we'll be ready to go at 1 o'clock, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They're still ready to go. I'm like, dude, it's 140 degrees. Come on, let's get on with it.
What's the rush?
Yeah, what's the rush? Have some more chai and some moldy bread.
Well, and Dave, you asked about other sort of preparation stuff. I mean, knowing more about the subject that you're trying to illustrate is always helpful. And then I'm never a fan of pre-visualization, but if you work on something like this, you kind of know, like you get an idea of the moments you need to really tell the story. Right. And so, you have an idea of, well, I need to be there for this doctor's appointment, and I need to be there for, there's this one really, really telling thing that happens in this person's life. I need to be there and capture that in this kind of way. And those are, you get an idea of the pieces that you need to fit together to tell the story. Yeah. Not necessarily pre-visualizing what that's going to look like, but the important moments that are. And then, of course, you get all the spontaneous stuff in between, but you can sort of put together a framework of the things you really need to get to help tell that story well. And having an idea of that is going to help you maximize being there at the right times, because that's a lot of it. It's really is just being there at the right time.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you can avoid some of that sort of tedious waiting for things to happen. But you also need to be aware of the quiet moments, of the things that aren't these big moments, but are still going to be important storytelling items that you need to capture in between all that.
Definitely.
I think kind of going back to like, knowing the person too, like, I mean, you can even speed things up a little bit and just ask them, directly, like, how would you describe yourself? Like, name 3 words to describe your personality or something. Write those words down and look for that when you're shooting. So if you're in a down moment or whatever, to at least have something that you're looking for, something, maybe some kind of adjective that you want your photos to reflect. And then it's also, when you're on something that's, a lot longer term, it's kind of easy to like be turned off, I guess, like when you're in situations, like if you're just kind of hanging out with somebody for like a day, it's easy to kind of not necessarily be like on top of everything. Like you go to a football game, you're like already focused.
Hey, so Nick, I hate to cut you off there, but we're having some weird microphone interference. Try unplugging your headphone and plugging it back in. While he does that, Zach, what 3 words would you use to describe yourself?
No, I'm staying. I'm basically stepping back. I haven't really had that opportunity on investigations, because I also work as an investigative researcher. I've spent years on stories and kind of popping in and out, but for still photo, not so much. Video, like there's been a handful of projects that I've tried, and then my biggest problem is that the person who was a friend of mine, who I was basically going to be spending all the time with, basically very much shut down around when the camera was on, and there was really no way of getting that. So I kind of pushed the documentary in a completely different way that I was working on, because I flew all the way up to Alaska to kind of do the story mostly about this one writer, and so I just kind of took the whole doc in a different direction, which wasn't bad. Still, everything massively interesting, but it certainly wasn't the project that I wanted to work on originally. So.
Yeah, I haven't done a long-term project since I was in college, but honestly, I've done long-term projects since then, but I haven't done a long-term project in a while. And I do yearn for wanting to do one again, and I might. Actually, I would say the long-term project I'm working on right now is my son, which is I take a photograph of him every month and show his progress of age. So that's something. I shoot him in the same studio backdrop.
Project.
What's that?
I'm sorry. Parenthood might be the ultimate long-term project. So.
It is. There was a great photo story done I read about or saw a couple years ago where a guy actually did that. He did basically an 18-year photo story on his daughter, showcasing her growth through time, and it was very profound and just gave some very intimate, portraiture and sort of subjects that I thought, was pretty neat.
Nice.
If I find that, I'll throw it a link in the show notes, but I can't even remember what the name of it would be. I'd probably have to do some Google foo on that one to find it. But let's go ahead and move on to our last subject of the evening. We're talking about the holiday gift-giving season, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever occasion you use to give gifts to one another. There's a lot of great stuff out there to give gifts about. We actually put together a little article. Zach put this on the website where he collected some of the sort of the best gift ideas from different panelists who've contributed to the show to kind of get their take on it. I contributed a few myself, which, by the way, if anyone wants to get me any of the things I listed, you'll be my best friend forever. In fact, I just want to say thanks to Zach.
Oh, where'd he go? He's walking up his own show.
Thanks, Zach, for getting me the DJI Mavic Pro. I really appreciate it,
buddy.
I
did that. Oh, crap. That's why my bank account's zero.
I know
That's
it's tough
why I
for you
should need to stop drinking so much.
I know it's tough for you to afford payments on your car, but to buy me a $1,000 drone, that really takes a lot of heart.
You're welcome.
Just kidding. I bought this myself. Sorry, Zach. But trying to win you some points there. Anyways, though, this was one of the items I chose for it. I just got this today, so I haven't opened this up yet. I'm going to do a little unboxing for the show. Check that out at a later date on our YouTube channel. But anyways, a lot of great stuff out there. What do you guys would recommend our audience get the visual journalist in their life that they would like to provide them something, perhaps, inside the realm of reality with regard to purchasing?
I was just looking at a gimbal for my A7S too, because of the video work I'm doing. Steady handheld footage is kind of important. So so if anyone's out there watching, I'll take a gimbal.
I've seen those before. It's like a gimbal, like you throw your GoPro on, but you can put a DSLR on it, right? Yeah. I saw one in January in Des Moines when I was covering the Caucasus, and this guy was running around with an A7 something, and he had it on a gimbal, and he was standing next to me for hours, it seemed like, holding it steady and getting remarkably good footage. How much does something like that cost?
I saw one for $1,200, so more than that drone.
Wow. Are these like the ones like the one-hand ones, or are you talking about the two-hand ones? Yeah, the one-handed versions that are battery-powered with the 3 axes and all the, this one was $1,200, you said? So wow. That's a little pricey. It's not pricey. The DJI Mavic Pro, only $1,000. How about you, Doug? You got some stuff for us?
Yeah, I'm all about photo books this year, and the one that I really wanted that I didn't snag it before it looks like it sold out is Matt Eich. Snag.
You're going there.
Matt Eich's book, Carry Me, Ohio.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I didn't pick up a copy before it sold out. I'm sure there's some copies floating around somewhere out there. I've seen a couple of copies in person, and it's really wonderful. If you want to talk about long-term storytelling, this is it's really a great book.
What was that book's name again?
It is Matt Eich's book, Carry Me, Ohio.
Okay.
But if you can't find,
how much does that go for?
I think it was $60 or $80, something like that. But if you can't find a copy, because like I said, it sold out from the publisher, you can get a not $3,000 copy of Sebastiao Salgado's book. So there's a $3,000 copy of this book. It's Sebastiao Salgado's book, Kuwait: A Desert on Fire. You can get a normal person $60 copy of it, and it's another great photo book. It's his it's all of his oil rig workers in Kuwait that
nice.
You may have seen some of these photos before, and it's really something else. These photos are otherworldly.
So what does he do to justify a $3,000 book? Like, is it printed on gold or something?
It's a limited edition. It's bigger than the other one, and I'm sure it's signed. And he's he's a Magnum photographer, I think, right? So that's probably where the $3,000 price tag comes in for that. But for us normal people, there is a normal version out there.
Unless it's as big as a car and you can drive it, I can't justify $3,000.
Oh wait, there's a $1,000 version.
Oh, I missed that one.
So it's affordable.
$1,000? That's nothing.
You know what else is
a DJI Mavic Pro for $1,000.
3 months of car payments. The $1,000 one is a collector's edition of 1,000 numbered copies signed by Sebastiao Salgado. Also available in a art edition of 100 copies, each containing coming with a gelatin silver print. That's your $3,000.
That is,
because that's how much. I think the gelatin prints on the site are selling on Tashin are selling for $10,000. So
God damn.
Also, it literally, the book itself is like, I'm looking at the Genesis art edition is what I was looking at. It literally comes in its own crate, like wooden crate, like Ark of the Covenant. Think about Indiana Jones, like crate.
So the guy who's photographing environmental causes is causing deforestation by having a book in a crate.
You gotta see this one. I put the link in the group chat. I mean, I would have a firstborn and then give it away for this book. I mean,
your crate reminded me of one more thing. I'm just really quickly going to mention. It's not photo related. I'm not going to give any details about it. Google the mysterious package company.
I'm going there now.
Christmas gift idea. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Oh my God, $10,000 for the Genesis Art Edition. That's insane.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys know what I want for Christmas.
You know how many drones? You could have a fleet of drones for that.
I know, right? An army of drones.
The Around the Lens drone collection. So
looking around you, it'll be like you want Around the Lens, as drone will come and deliver it.
It'll be 360 drone video. That's how we'll do our next episode of the show.
I like it.
Oh crap! I gave him an idea.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Nick, what can we expect from you for our stockings this year? Nick.
I think you might be muted, Nick.
Did I mute him? I think I unmuted him. Nick, can you hear us? Nick?
We can't hear you.
Oh no.
I didn't. I unmuted him. Just unplug your headphones. Let's see what happens. Did you unplug your headphones?
Huh. I guess you did.
Well, that proves me. I don't know, Nick. I'm not. You're not muted on my end.
I'd go into system preferences for audio.
The joy of live.
Yep.
All right. Well, while we get Nick all prepared here, try and figure out what's going on with Nick. Guys, go ahead and tell me where you can find out more about you. Bill?
Okay. My website is www.billputnamphoto.net, and my Instagram/Twitter feed is at BillPutnamPhoto. It's PUT November Alpha Mike.
You can find me at www.dougstrickland.com. My Instagram is at @StricklandPhoto, and my Instagram is at doug.strickland. My Twitter is at @StricklandPhoto. And you can also find my work on timesfreepress.com just about every day. That's the Chattanooga Times Free Press's website.
All right. Nick, try and log off and log back in. We'll vamp for you for a little bit. So, Zach, where can people find out more about you?
You can go to Toshin.com and click the Add to Cart button, and then ship the my address at you can find obviously you can find me at AroundTheLens.com, but on my personal side you can find me at ZDRoberts.com, ZDRoberts on Twitter, and basically ZD Roberts pretty much anywhere there's a social type site.
Nice. You can find me personally at djmphoto.com, but of course check us out at aroundthelens.com. On Facebook we're /ATL podcast after the Facebook. Twitter it's at Around Lens. Instagram it's Around the Lens. We were lucky to get that one. I always vent about I never got Around the Lens on Twitter. Irks me to no end. And we've got a lot of great stuff coming up for you next week. We'll have another show, and then the week after that, we're going to have our year in review podcast. I'll be scouring the shows of the year gone by to see what were our best segments, what were our favorite segments from the year. So if you have any suggestions, please send them to me. You can email me at djmphoto.com or djmphoto@gmail.com or info@aroundthelens. So let me know if you want me to consider something for the year in review show. And Nick, are you back?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm back.
Nick, what should we buy? What should we fill our stockings with this year?
Canon 5D Mark IVs.
Okay.
One in mind.
You dropped my
Should I get 3 or 4?
Yeah, I'll take as many as you can get. I'll take forget about the book for $3,000. But let's see. Peak Design has a lot of good stuff. They have these. you want to ask for something that's not $1,000, they have these cool little like clips for like if you are in a situation where you need to secure your camera but don't want to like put it in your backpack or something. You check those out, Peak Design. And yeah.
I'm actually going to make a realistic suggestion. It's not super duper cheap, but for about $100, you can get a 360 camera that works with any Android phone. It's made by the same company that made the 360 camera for the iPhone. Let me see if I can bring it up here. It is doing a Indiegogo campaign right now. If you want to get involved with it, it is I believe you recommended this like a couple months back when it first came out, Zach. It's like the 360 camera for iPhone. Do you remember what it was called?
No, unfortunately, I don't.
Okay, I'm going to look it up here and hopefully give you the information. It is not coming up in my search.
Is it the Insta 360 Nano?
Yes. No, it's Insta 360 Air. That's the new one that they have coming out. I actually just put a little down payment on it on Indiegogo myself because I think it's a pretty cool 360 camera, and it's a lot better than the other one I purchased a while back. But that you can get for $99 on Indiegogo if you want to back it now, or it'll be $120 when it comes out. But I think it's really neat to see, and it's great to see. Obviously, the sort of the price of overall 360 cameras going down and becoming easier access and whatnot. So that's what I would suggest is kind of a less expensive stocking stuffer if you've got a bit more money. Nick, where can people find you?
So my website is nickcodephoto.com, and on Instagram also my handle is nickcodephoto. So, and Twitter.
All right, great. Yeah, and again, it's the Insta360 Air 360 VR clip-on camera for smartphone. So check that out. But anyways, I want to thank all our panelists for being on the show tonight. I really appreciate your guys' time, guys. You're always welcome back on the show in the future.
Great.
So again, I want to thank Bill, Doug, and Nick. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Please, everybody, go check out their websites, check out their work. You can stay in touch with them and find out what they're up to at aroundthelens.com. For Zach Roberts, I am David Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 54, and we're out.